Hello everyone, hope all has been well with you all. Today I'll dig into how reframing and failure assessment in basketball and 3 keys to potential change things up are a useful tool, especially in our sport. Well, it's the last stretch of the season and usually the busiest for us all as players, coaches, and everyone in the game. Yeah, that includes me too. Working with players and assisting them as an advisor, I usually get a ton of questions around this time of the season on new potential clients. The above being said, I also wanted to share that I recently pretty much kind of shared the link of a free 1-hour consultation to my Doodle calendar, and the return was amazing. Thank you all very much for wanting to basically grab an hour with me. And if you still want to do so, feel free to. The link is up in my link tree. And if you basically want to go through there, just go to Linktree and then just click on the 1-hour free consultation link, and then you'll be able to see my calendar and what I have pretty much available these days. Before I move on, I hope you could drop a like, comment, or even better yet, subscribe to my channel. I definitely appreciate that. Now, further moving on, lots to cover, so here I go. So, for today, as a player advisor, I get a lot of questions about different topics, most of the times by a lot of basketball players who are looking to develop. And I just want to very quickly, briefly cover over those points. First of all, so one thing I get asked a lot about is scouting, and players just would want to know how to get scouted by professional teams, what scouts are really looking for in a player, and what they can do to increase their chances of being noticed. Another thing I regularly get asked on a lot is agent representation. Agents play a critical role in a player's career, obviously, and players would want to know how to choose the right agent and how to be noticed by agents and what to expect from their agents and what their responsibilities are. To be honest, I'm not the kind of player advisor that really digs in so heavily deep into that side of, let's say, my advisory role, but I do inform them on, let's say, the overall topics and the insights. The NBA and the draft process, obviously I get asked a lot about as an international. It is something that I'm pretty aware of, and players would want to understand how the draft process really does work, especially if they're looking to turn pro from a college standpoint, or if there are, let's say, potential overseas players that are high up in the rankings that can potentially make a jump over to the NBA. The different rounds, how teams really select players, and those kind of insights. Furthermore, salary and contracts overseas. Players would want to know how contracts really work, how salaries are determined, and what their rights and responsibilities are as a professional player. Training and development. A lot of professional players need to keep developing their skills to stay competitive. Players would want to know what type of trainings and development opportunities are available to them, including coaching, camps, and summer leagues. Nutrition and fitness, obviously, another very key point. To perform at the best, players need to take care of their bodies. Players would want to learn about proper nutrition, conditioning, and injury prevention techniques. I do dabble a little bit on that end in terms of the nutrition side and the injury prevention side. Conditioning is not really that's a huge forte, but I know the right kind of people to guide my players towards that I work with directly. And yeah, for those that basically are looking to gain insight, for sure. I mean, I also provide them insight to that end too. Moving along, mental toughness. This is something I really do a lot in. Obviously, our game of basketball is a mentally challenging sport, and players need to be mentally tough to succeed. Players would want to learn about techniques to develop mental toughness and stay focused during games. And there are also those circumstances, of course, on and off the court situations where mental toughness is pretty much required. So yeah, that's also pretty critical for them to know. Furthermore, I also provide insight on opportunities outside of playing. So players may want to know about other opportunities available to them outside of playing, such as coaching, broadcasting, starting up their own line of business maybe related to basketball. So I do dabble in that as well a little bit in terms of guiding and advising. Overall, basketball players looking to turn professional need to be knowledgeable about a wide range of topics, including all the above information that I just provided on. But as mentioned, so I mean, the mental toughness area is something I do dig into a lot. And I did want to provide some further insight on that. So that being said, so let's get into the mental toughness thing a little bit more. So a critical aspect of basketball can make the difference between success and failure. I don't see a lot of, let's say, gray area when it comes to this side of the game. So here are some insights on the mental toughness of basketball and basketball players that actually seek this out. Focus. Basketball players need to be able to focus on the task at hand, whether it's shooting a free throw, defending their opponent, or executing a play. To develop focus, players need to practice mindfulness and visualization techniques that help them block out distractions and stay in the moment. Resilience. Basketball players need to be resilient and be able to bounce back from setbacks, such as missed shots, turnovers, or losses. To develop resilience, players need to learn how to handle failure and setbacks, develop a positive attitude, and maintain a growth mindset. Confidence. Well, basketball players need to be confident in the ability and trust in their training and preparation. To develop confidence, players need to focus on their strengths, set realistic goals, and visualize success. Now, I'll open up a very kind of small parentheses over here. So, I mean, with kind of the confidence that basketball players do need, even though I'll touch up on this in another video, I do want to mention this specifically. Especially setting realistic goals is an issue for basketball players. So as a player advisor, I also make sure that this is a definitive circumstance that all players really manage to stick to, that actually work with me. Perseverance, especially with basketball players, need to be those that are going to take them through tough times and push through fatigue and adversity. To develop perseverance, players need to work on their conditioning, practice mental toughness drills, and learn how to push themselves beyond the limits. Mental preparation, well, it is a more holistic, let's say, approach in the general scheme of things. Basketball players need to be mentally prepared for every game that they play, even practices at times. And this requires a consistent routine of mental preparation, including visualization, goal setting, and focus drills. And emotional control. Basketball players need to be able to control their emotions and maintain composure under pressure. To develop emotional control, players need to learn how to regulate their breathing, practice mindfulness, and use techniques like positive self-talk to stay focused and calm. And today, I'll elaborate a bit more on this side of things in terms of emotional control. Overall, though, with mental toughness, it's a critical component of basketball, and players who can develop their mental strength and resilience will have a significant advantage over their opponents. So, when we look at emotional control, especially an aspect of the mental toughness in basketball, when we look at this side of things, The ability to control emotions and maintain composure under pressure is critical to succeeding on court. Now, here are some ways that basketball players can develop emotional control. So there are breathing techniques that I usually dig into with a lot of the players that I work with, such as deep breathing and belly breathing, which usually helps a lot with players to regulate their emotions and stay calm. Players can practice these techniques during timeouts or breaks in the game to help them regain focus and control. Mindfulness is something I do get into a lot. Mindfulness is a practice of being present and in the moment and aware of one's thoughts and emotions without judgment. That is, let's say, definitely a key. So, I mean, being able to really go through it without judgment is going to be vital for anybody looking to really dig in deeper. Basketball players can use mindfulness to stay focused and calm during high-pressure situations. Furthermore, positive talk. So positive talk is a technique where players use positive statements to motivate themselves and stay focused. By replacing negative self-talk with positive self-talk, players can boost their confidence and stay calm under pressure. There's also visualization. So, I mean, we very briefly touched up over it just a little bit earlier. Visualization is a practice of imagining a successful outcome before it even happens. By visualization techniques and the success and seeing themselves performing well, players can reduce anxiety and stay calm during the game. Pre-game routines are also, if you ask me, very, very useful. A pre-game routine can help a player get into the right mindset and prepare mentally for the game. This routine can include mental preparation, visualization, and breathing exercises. And today's hot topic, so reframing. Reframing is a technique of changing the way one thinks about a situation. Instead of focusing on negative outcomes, players can reframe the situation and focus on the opportunities and positive outcomes. So let's dig a little bit more deeper into reframing specifically, since that's going to be the hot topic of today. As a tool, which is extremely powerful and used in sports psychology to change the way one perceives and thinks about a situation, that's what they actually call reframing. It involves taking a negative thought or situation and finding a positive or empowering meaning or perspective. Here's some examples of how basketball players can actually use reframing. So within reframing, there's also something called reframing pressure. Instead of seeing pressure as something negative or overwhelming, basketball players can reframe it as an opportunity to showcase their skills and raise to the occasion. They can use the pressure to focus their energy and push themselves to perform at their best. There's something called reframing fatigue. Instead of seeing fatigue as a weakness or a sign of exhaustion, basketball players can reframe it as a sign of their hard work and dedication. They can see fatigue as a positive sign that they are pushing themselves to their limits and that their body is responding to the demands of the game. Then there's reframing adversity. Instead of seeing adversity, such an injury or loss of a teammate, as a setback, basketball players can reframe it as an opportunity to come together as a team and rally around one another. They can use adversity as a way to build resilience, strength, and both individually and as a team. There's also reframing criticism. Instead of seeing criticism as an attack on their abilities or performance, basketball players can reframe things as a constructive feedback. They can use criticism to identify areas of improvement and work to make changes that will benefit their game. Last but nowhere least, and I think by far, aside from the hot topic of today being reframing, is reframing failure. Instead of seeing a missed shot or turnover as a failure, as an example, basketball players can reframe it as a learning opportunity. They can analyze what went wrong, learn from it, and use that knowledge to improve their game. Now, I regularly do this by watching game film together with the players that I actually do help out. But it's even better when players just directly post-game look at their own game footage themselves and try to go through this process themselves, then have a talk with me about this. And that usually does also change things up a lot. That usually helps them out extremely quick. Now, within reframing failure, to further explain it, I'll give you a couple of examples. So yeah, for instance, missed shots. Instead of seeing missed shots as a failure, basketball players can reframe it as a chance to improve their technique and shot selection. Commonly, again, watching game film will definitely help you out, and this even also critically changes up the thought process you have in terms of scouting yourself. They can analyze what went wrong, adjust from their form or positioning, and work on their shot during practice sessions. Another thing, turnovers, something we regularly see. I mean, obviously the game is about making the minimal amount of mistakes, but turnovers are also a part of the game. So instead of seeing turnovers as a failure, basketball players can reframe it as an opportunity to improve their decision-making skills and ball handling. They can analyze what led to the turnover, practice their ball handling, and work on their decision-making during the game situation. Then there are defensive mistakes. Instead of seeing defensive mistakes as a failure again, basketball players can reframe this as a chance to really learn from and improve their defensive skills. They can analyze what went wrong, work on their footwork and positioning during practice, and adjust their strategy for future defensive situations. Now, lastly, for today, I'll very briefly go over 3 key ways to really correct these reframing failure circumstances. Number 1, obviously, practice, practice, practice. One of the most effective ways to correct failure is through practicing and adjusting all the time. By practicing specific skills, all players can improve their technique, decision-making skills, and defensive skills. They can work on their weaknesses, such as shooting, ball handling, or defensive positioning, and develop confidence and ability to execute them during games. Then there's feedback. Getting feedback from coaches, teammates, or even video analysis, and specifically if you work with an advisor like myself, then that's definitely going to help you identify the areas of improvement and correct failure. They can use feedback to adjust their technique or strategy, make changes to their game, and improve their overall performances. Then we're going full circle again, guys. So, I mean, mental toughness. Developing mental toughness overall in itself can help basketball players overcome failure and setbacks. They can learn to handle failure and setbacks and maintain a positive attitude and stay focused on their goals. By building mental toughness, basketball players can bounce back from failure and use it as a motivation to improve their game. In the grand scheme of things, reframing failure and correcting things in these key ways can help basketball players to improve their game and really develop themselves in a very necessary way to succeed on court. So by using failure as an opportunity to learn and grow, players can build resilience, confidence, and ultimately improve their performances. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's player talk and hope that you basically come back to the channel soon. If you have not already, make sure to again drop a comment, like the video, or even better yet, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching and hope to see you back soon.